Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day. Why can't they be good leaders? Why can't these people be good leaders? Why? Let's go over some of these things. I think the first step is possibly because they're not good followers. To me, one of the first steps, if I could look at the first two things, if I had to identify this topic, would be, number one, you got to be able to lead yourself well in order to lead other people well. And leading yourself well is always the hardest thing to do. But number two is typically because they're not good followers. And if you're going to be a great leader, like the best leaders that I've seen, they were a student of the game. They humbled themselves to somebody, and they had an opportunity to learn from other people and take wisdom from other people. And it's difficult to be a good leader if you haven't become a great follower. So to me, leadership starts with followership. Leadership starts with being somebody that's humble enough to be coachable, humble enough to follow somebody that has wisdom and to learn and to grow from that stuff. No one follows a leader who never learned to follow. I mean, people will, but over time it usually doesn't work. Like the people that haven't learned to ever follow, to me, have egos. They're not humble. They're not strong enough to be humble. They have egos to where they won't allow themselves to be coached and won't allow themselves to learn from other people enough. And so I think, to me, I remember one of the questions I used to get all the time from young people in our business is, how do you get respect from older people when you're giving a sales presentation to older people? How do you get the respect? One of them is to know your stuff, to be a master at your craft, to have knowledge, to where they respect how much that you know and your education on yourself and the products and all that stuff. But I think the second major one that applies to this is you earn respect by giving respect first. So you earn respect by first showing respect. And I think if you're looking at yourself, I think we always have to self-audit ourselves. We have to have good self-awareness. It's easy to point the finger at other people, but every time you point the finger at other people, they got three fingers pointing back at you. That's the hard part. The internal focus of like, what can I do better? Where did I err? What part of this can I own? So I think a big step for you to grow as a leader is to ask yourself, would you follow you? Would you follow yourself? Because to me, leadership requires self-awareness and personal accountability. Personal accountability is tough. It's easy for me to hold you accountable. It's easy for me to critique you and tell you what you need to be doing. But it's hard to turn around and look at myself and say, what could I do better? What areas am I failing in? What areas am I struggling in? Where should I be holding myself accountable more to things, and do that self-assessment of yourself? Because I think this goes simultaneously of like leading yourself well and then being a good follower before it's your turn to be a great leader. To be that leader, some people, you got to lead from the front. You also have to learn to have been coached and learn from where you're at. Nearly all the best leaders that I've witnessed were once the best listeners, the best observers, the best learners. It's crazy. Sometimes I'll give these leadership meetings, and if you ask some of the people having the most amount of success in that meeting, hey, let's see your notes. The people that are making the most money that are having the most amount of success, oftentimes those are the people that have the best notes, that are paying the most attention. And it's not the ones that already are killing it. It's the ones that are not having the most success. Those are the ones that typically got the worst notes, that are not taking notes, that are not paying as much attention. And so in order to be a great leader, developing yourself, you gotta first lead yourself well and inspect, and then you got to learn how to be a good follower. Respect isn't given to your title, it's given to your actions. I'm well aware of this. I remember it first being taught and learned from the book. You guys know I like John Maxwell for leadership, the 5 levels of leadership, where level 1 is positional leadership. That's people follow you because they have to, because that's your title. Level 2 is permission. Now people start to follow you because of your relationship with them, because they want to. Level 3 is production. People follow you because of the results that you get. Level 4, people want to follow you. It's called people development. People want to follow you because you've developed them and you've made them better. You've made an impact on their life. And then that leads you to level 5. That's called the ultimate respect level, pinnacle, all the P's, right? So if we go back over it again, it's position, level 1. That's the weakest level to lead from. Do this because I told you to, because I'm the boss. Although sometimes it does take position to lead, it helps to have a title and a position to lead. If you're only leading of do this because I said to, because I'm the boss, that's weaker leadership. The second level up from that is people start to follow you because of your relationship with them. So you got to build relationships. But if you got relationships without any results, sooner or later, they're not going to want to follow you. So level 3 is results. People want to follow you because you got a good relationship with them and you get results. Level 4, people want to follow you. This is where you start really having high levels of leadership, where you can multiply things, is people want to follow you because of the relationship that you develop, because of the results that you get, and now because of the results they get in their life from what you've poured into them and the amount of development that you've done for them. That leads you to level 5, pinnacle, which is the ultimate respect level. And I think if you have all 4 of those down, then you can come close to qualifying for level 5, the ultimate respect level, which is where people say, I would follow that person anywhere. And that, I think, has to do with not just how you live your life in your work, in business, but the respect level that they have for you outside of work, outside of business. How are you overall as a person, even though no one's perfect, right? And so you got to shoot for level 5 to be a great leader. And a lot of that is internal. And if you want to be able to develop others, you got to be able to develop yourself. If you want to be able to develop others, someone would have had to develop you. Being in charge, that you got some specific title, doesn't automatically make you a leader worth following the people just because you got a title. These are the worst leaders, is the people that only lead because they got a title. They just can't wait to get the next title because they can sit on the throne and say that they got some form of title. Authority does not equal leadership. I think it helps if you've been a part of a team. Don't even need to necessarily be a sports team, but it helps if you've been a part of a team to understand team dynamics. If you want to be a hero, you want to be the one that everybody follows, you want to be the greatest in leadership, is humble yourself first and be a hero later. Because if you don't take that and you want to be a hero now, then what happens in my experience is that you get humbled down the road. But it's your choice. So either walk in with humility and you get to be a hero down the road, or you walk in with this arrogance of I'm a hero right now, and then you walk out with humility. And what I've learned is like, man, if I can humble myself, it's a softer landing than when the world got to humble us. When God has to humble us, it's a tougher landing. There's no pads down there. It's boom. It's a rough landing. It's a tough lesson to learn. So learning and following, to me, takes humility. That's the root of it all. Is you gotta be humble enough to learn. You gotta be humble enough to follow somebody else, and that's how you become the greatest. We gotta learn to, leaders that talk the most, that do mostly the talking, those are the ones that still need to develop the most, in my experience. And I used to be like that. I still got to develop. I still got to get better. I don't got it all down, but I'm just talking about in my earlier and younger years in leadership. But what I've learned is that over time, I think the greater leader you want to be, the more that you listen. They say if you listen to the whispers, you don't have to hear the screams. Also known as what we call WAYT. What are you thinking? And so I want to listen well enough that I can understand what it is that you're thinking. I want to listen to where you're at, to what are your challenges. What do you think we should do? Let me get your opinions. Let me get buy-in from the leadership team. And part of listening is it shows that you care about the other person's opinion. And if you walk our hallways, one of the quotes that we have on above one of the doors is it says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Good followers develop that EQ, that emotional intelligence, that emotional quotient that real leaders need. You can't build trust if you've never had to trust somebody else first. It's hard to build trust with somebody in a relationship if you've never had the opportunity to trust in others. And you're going to be vulnerable, right? It's like just the way it works. Is anytime you love, you're vulnerable to where, what if I get hurt, right? You can get hurt. That's what happens sometimes. But to not open up enough means that it's going to be difficult to ever love, right? And so the same thing with trust. Anybody that is trusted over time has been burned and has been hurt by the trust that you've given to somebody. It's how you learn from that experience and continue to move forward. I think, when we talk about the 5 levels of leadership, there comes a point where people think that they could talk their way through without producing other people and helping them be successful, or without being successful themselves, doing the work, doing the production. And typically, I learned that like the first step to earning everybody's respect is that you get out there and do the work that you're talking about. Your influence is weak because your example is weaker. So what is your example saying? Leadership is earned through consistency and integrity, aligning up with what you're talking about doing, I'm doing. What you're talking about doing, we got to do. And so the more consistent that you are with that leadership message and with the action of which you walk, the more respect that I think you're going to have. So take it as we close out, take a quick assessment of yourself, or help other people take this assessment and ask myself, number one, how good of a follower am I being? Am I being a good enough follower? Number two, am I looking internally at myself at some of the things that I can improve upon, and coming up with a game plan and self-accountability and self-awareness of, you know what, I can get better at that. Are people around you, do they have enough confidence in you, in your relationship, that they could tell you, are you asking people around you, where do they think you could get better? And they're not afraid to tell you the truth so you can grow. Next thing I would do, action step, is I would look at the 5 levels of leadership that we mentioned and look in there and say, all right, what level am I on and where can I improve? As a whole, and more so individually. Because here's a mistake I see people make in leadership is they think because they got a level 5 with this person that they necessarily got a level 5 with somebody else. I may have a level 5 with you, but I may not have a level 5 with your people. It's impossible to have a level 5 with everybody. So the best way to go about accountability or tough conversations in a team setting is go to the person that you have a level 5 with and see if that person could have the accountability conversation with the person that you would have wanted to hold accountable that they have a level 5 with. So for example, if you got 100 people in your organization and you got a level 5 with 10 people, you don't have it with the other 90. And the lower level you have on that levels of 5 that they have, the lower level of leadership you're probably going to be able to take with these people. So what I would want to do is those 10, if those 10 had a level 5 with 5 people each, now my 10 got a level 5 with 50 people. So now we got a level 5 with 60 people. Now, if those 50 people, if they each had a level 5 with 2 people, because of how much they've walked through those levels, now we can have a level 5 with the group. And so if I want to talk to that bottom level hardcore and get some things done, I may need to, depending on how hard that conversation needs to be, maybe I need to go to my level 5 person and have that level 5 person tell their person and tell their person to tell that person versus me going direct. Because sometimes what happens is if you go direct only to hold people accountable all the time, then it's like the only time this person reaches out to me is when they got something negative to say, when they got something bad to say. And that's tough. In a high-paced environment, sometimes you might need to cut the line and be real direct. But the best way to go about it, in my experience, is that. And while we're on that subject, I think this is a whole nother topic, but I would say like deposits and withdrawals. Look at how many deposits you're making with people. Deposits is the energy you put into them, the kindness that you show to them, the words that you build them up with, the time that you give to these people, like the deposits that you make into their life allows you to make withdrawals, which is kicking them in the butt sometimes, or having a hard conversation, or asking for a favor, or whatever it is. Because I think to move the line, to take it to the next level, you're going to have to get people to push beyond what they would have been able to push themselves to do because you're pushing them to do it. But they got to want to do it because you're telling them to do it. And the only way they're going to want to do it because you're telling them to do it is if you have enough change in the bank. If you want to make change, you got to have enough change in the bank with that person. So now I could push you. You want to be pushed. You want to listen to me because I got enough money in the bank with you that I can make a withdrawal. Even though it's for your own benefit and it's for your own good, it's still a withdrawal if I got to kick you in the butt. And so pay attention to the deposits and withdrawals. Look at your bank account balance with the people and make sure that you haven't just been making a bunch of withdrawals recently to people, because sooner or later you bankrupt the relationship if you're not putting anything back into it, but you make a bunch of withdrawals. So the more withdrawals that you want to make, the more deposits that you got to make. And to go and to really grow people and push to the next level, if you want to challenge them, those could be looked as withdrawals a lot of times. So that means if I'm going to make a lot of withdrawals from you to push you, I got to put in a bunch of deposits so I don't go bankrupt. So I hope that helps some people out there. If it did help anybody out there, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor and sharing this message with people that you think it can help, just hit that forward button, that share button, text it to some people and tell them why you think that they should listen to it. Like, comment, share, join, all that stuff. That's how we spread the word here on the GRINDcast. And as always, we're grateful. We know you could spend this 20 minutes with anybody and you chose to spend it with us. And so we're grateful for that. And so as always, we tell you thank you for joining us on another episode of the GRINDcast. We'll see you next time. Let's get it.